Squid Game is notorious for showing just how brutal and unforgiving its deadly games can be. From ruthless executions to painfully slow, agonizing deaths, the creators have perfected the art of making us cringe. Today, we're ranking the most tragic deaths, from gut-wrenching to downright heartbreaking. Trust me, it gets worse with every step. So, let's dive in. Young Mi's death. Mingle Game. Starting off with Young Mi's death during the Mingle Game. This one stands out because of how brutal and emotional it is. Young Mi, separated from her group, is desperately searching for a room to hide in before the time runs out. When she finally spots an open door, another player swoops in, locking her out at the last second. The panic on her face as she realizes she's been locked out is heartbreaking, and her desperate pleas to be let in only make the moment worse. She's helpless, and you can't help but feel her fear. Then, the worst part, a single gunshot. It's quick, clean, and final. But what makes it so gut-wrenching is the emotional weight behind it. This wasn't some cold, calculated elimination during one of the big games. It was a desperate fight for survival in a game that shows no mercy. The emotional tension builds as we watch her struggle, knowing she's just a moment away from certain death. Her death isn't about strategy or winning, it's just sheer, unavoidable fate. And it's so sudden that it leaves a haunting impact, showing just how far the game can go to crush people's hopes. It wasn't just the end of her life, it was the end of her last chance at survival. It's a tragic reminder of the brutality of Squid Game, and honestly, it's one of the more emotionally devastating deaths in the series. This sets the tone for what's to come, and trust me, things are about to get way worse. Player 444's death. Red light, green light. Sometimes the worst deaths are the ones where hope is dangled in front of you, only to be snatched away in the most brutal way possible. That's exactly what happens to player 444 during the red light, green light game. After he's shot in the leg, it looks like he's done for, but then, in a moment of kindness, Gaihan and Hyeonju rush to carry him across the finish line, saving him from elimination at the last second. For a brief moment, we think he might actually make it. But then, just as quickly, the guards shoot him anyway for being a loser. The brutality of this death is tough to watch, and it sets a harsh tone for the rest of the series. Here's the thing, no good deed goes unpunished in Squid Game. Even when someone tries to help, it's twisted into more suffering. The moment we think there might be a shred of hope for player 444, it gets ripped away with one last final blow. It's a cruel reminder of how the game works. You're expendable, no matter how kind or noble your actions may be. This death wasn't just about losing the game at what cost. It was about shattering the illusion of hope. It reminds us that Squid Game doesn't just kill people, it breaks them emotionally before the physical blow even lands. It's one of the early examples of how the show twists expectations, and from here on, things only get darker. Young Bae's death. Young Bae's death in Season 2 hits differently because it's so sudden and shocking. After surviving multiple brutal games alongside his ally, G-Money, Young Bae seemed like he was ready to lead a revolt against the game's organizers. He was positioned to become a key player in the fight for freedom. But in an instant, his fate is sealed. As he's surrendering, thinking the fight's over, the frontman shoots him point blank in the head. No warning, no buildup. Just the cold, brutal end of a character who had already fought through so much. The look of shock and despair on Young Bae's face as life drains from him is unforgettable. The image of Jihan screaming in horror as his friend is taken from him so violently adds even more emotional weight to the moment. What makes it especially heartbreaking is the lack of any heroic last stand. Just a cruel, unexpected death that shatters any hope for a victory. This death isn't just a physical loss, it's a mental and emotional one for Gihan too. He witnesses the murder of someone who fought by his side, and that kind of trauma will stick with him, especially moving forward into Season 3. Young Bae's death reminds us that survival in Squid Game isn't about strategy or skill. Sometimes it's just about timing, and how quickly the game masters can snuff out anyone who dares to resist. The Glass Bridge victims. The Glass Bridge game brought some of the most physically brutal deaths in Squid Game. In this challenge, players had to cross a bridge made of glass panels, some of which were solid and others were fragile. If you stepped on the wrong one, you didn't just fall, you fell nearly 100 feet to the ground below. The impact was bone-crushing, and we got to witness every moment of it. When Dew and Hanino fell, the camera lingered on their descent, following them all the way down. The sickening sound of their bodies hitting the floor, bones snapping, organs rupturing, is enough to make anyone cringe. What makes these deaths so disturbing is the buildup. The long fall gives both the victims and the viewers plenty of time to brace for what's coming, knowing exactly what awaits them at the bottom. It's a twisted mix of psychological and physical brutality. The terror on their faces as they plummet, the realization that they're about to die is almost more haunting than the fall itself. It's a slow, agonizing wait for the inevitable, making the entire experience even more gut-wrenching. It's a reminder of just how ruthless the game is, offering no mercy, no second chances, just a terrifying end. Player 271's death, outside the games. Not all deaths in Squid Game come from the official games themselves. Player 271's death is one of the cruelest because of how it happened, and the reason behind it. During a rare lunch break when food was already scarce, Deoksu and his gang took more than their fair share, leaving everyone else to go hungry. Player 271, driven by hunger and a sense of fairness, confronted them. But when he accidentally broke Dew's glass bottle, things took a dark turn. Dew attacked him mercilessly, continuing the assault even after player 271 stopped fighting back. What makes this death even more horrific is that it wasn't part of the official game. There were no rules being broken, no challenges lost. He wasn't eliminated for failing a task. He died simply for standing up to someone who stole his food. The fact that this brutal beating took place outside of the official game makes it even more disturbing. The guards, who are supposed to keep order, did nothing to intervene, allowing this senseless violence to continue. Player 271's death shows just how far the players are willing to go to survive, even outside the game's structure. It's a chilling example of the desperation and cruelty that Squid Game can bring out in people. Ali's death, betrayal and heartbreak. Ali's death might seem straightforward on the surface, a gunshot to the head, typical for Squid Game eliminations. But what makes his death so tragic is the gut-wrenching betrayal that led to it. In the marbles game, Ali won fair and square, defeating Sang-woo in a tense and emotional battle. But Sang-woo had no intention of letting Ali walk away as the winner. He convinced Ali to hand over his marbles, swapping them with stones while Ali was unaware. When the truth finally hit Ali, the look on his face was pure devastation. He'd been tricked, manipulated by someone he thought he could trust. This moment of realization, the crushing weight of betrayal, makes his death feel even more personal and brutal. Ali's kindness and purity were crushed in an instant. The execution itself, though off-screen, was no less impactful. We hear the sound of the gunshot, and the next thing we see is the guard raising his gun to Ali's head. The contrast of a childlike playground setting against the cold, brutal nature of the execution creates a haunting atmosphere. It's a stark reminder that in this game, nothing, not even trust, is safe. The Doctor's death, message through violence. The Doctor's death stands out for more than just the violence involved. It's about sending a message. After his side hustle as an organ harvester was exposed, the frontman decided to make an example out of him. The Doctor wasn't just killed, he was executed in a show of force. A hail of bullets cut him down, but the brutality didn't end there. His body was strung up, displayed like a grotesque puppet for all to see. Blood dripped from his wounds, creating a puddle on the floor below, making the scene even more disturbing. The message was clear: break the rules and this is your fate. The Doctor's death wasn't just about eliminating a player, it was a warning to everyone else. The psychological horror of seeing a person hung like that, devoid of dignity, was as violent as the physical death itself. This spectacle was a power move by the game masters, designed to instill fear and maintain control. It's a reminder that in Squid Game, life is disposable and even death is used as a tool to manipulate and control the remaining players. Thanos' death, painful, relentless struggle. Thanos' death is one of the most gruesome and hard-to-watch moments in Squid Game, not just because of how he died, but because of the sheer pain he endured before finally passing. After a brutal fight with Minsu in the bathroom, Thanos found himself in a life-or-death struggle that ended in an agonizing, drawn-out death. Minsu, in a moment of desperation, jammed a fork straight through Thanos' throat and the blood poured out like a waterfall. The sight was shocking enough, But it was what happened after that made his death truly horrifying. Thanos didn't die instantly. Instead, he kept crawling, dragging himself through his own blood, desperately trying to stay alive. His will to survive was strong, but it only made the situation more tragic. The camera lingered on his struggle, showing every desperate gasp for air as blood bubbled up in his throat. His body was losing strength, yet he kept moving, leaving a trail of blood in his wake. The slow, painful way he clung to life made this one of the most disturbing deaths in the entire series. It wasn't just a quick kill, it was a drawn-out suffering where every second felt like an eternity for him. Midnight Brawl? Victims. Senseless violence in the dark. The Midnight Brawl deaths are disturbing for a different reason. When the lights went out in the dormitory, all rules were suspended, and players, in their desperation, turned on each other. The sounds of chaos, fighting, screams, and bodies crashing filled the darkness, and when the lights flicked back on, the room was a bloodbath. One player had been strangled with bare hands, their face purple and lifeless, eyes bulging in terror. Another had their head smashed repeatedly against the wall, leaving a grotesque blood smear. Several others had been stabbed with makeshift weapons, their bodies crumpled in pools of blood. What made these deaths so tragic was that we never learned the names of the victims. They were just nameless players, killed by their own in the dark, reduced to mere obstacles in the game. The brutality wasn't just physical, it was emotional. These deaths weren't part of the game's official challenges. They were a result of raw, senseless violence. The darkness symbolized the moral abyss these players had fallen into, where survival mattered more than human decency. These nameless deaths highlight the dehumanizing nature of the game. It's not just about playing, it's about eliminating anyone in your way, no matter the cost. Player 101, Han Minyo. Han Minyo's death is one of the most tragic and manipulative moments in the series. From the beginning, Minyo is portrayed as someone who's trying to manipulate others for her own gain, often using her charm and unpredictability to stay in the game. Her interactions with the other players, particularly with Deok-Soo, show that she's desperate to survive and will do anything to achieve that. However, her sudden and unexpected death in the final rounds highlights how the game doesn't care about strategy or loyalty. It only cares about survival. In the Glass Bridge game, Minyo's behavior grows increasingly erratic. Despite initially aligning with Deok-Soo, the partnership falls apart during the game. After Deok-Soo betrays her, Han Minyo's desperation reaches a new level, and she chooses to take drastic action. At the very last moment, in an act of vengeance and perhaps a cry for control, she grabs onto Deok-Soo, taking him down with her. They both fall to their deaths, and her final moments are marked by a frantic, emotional attempt to take someone down with her as she meets her end. Her death stands out because it's not just about the physicality of the fall, but the emotional betrayal behind it. It's a gut-wrenching moment that makes viewers feel both sorrow and anger at the way Minyo's survival instincts led her to a tragic, chaotic end. In the grand scheme of the show, it is also a commentary on how the players, no matter their strategies or intentions, will eventually be reduced to nothing in this cruel game. The Old Man, Oh Il-nam. One of the most shocking twists in Squid Game is the death of Oh Il-nam, the elderly man who was revealed to be the mastermind behind the entire game. Throughout the series, Oh Il-nam appears frail and harmless, which causes viewers to sympathize with him. He becomes a surrogate father figure to Gi-hun, and his presence offers a sense of warmth amid the chaos. When his death finally happens, it's both devastating and tragic. As Gi-hun fights to survive, Oh Il-nam's true role as the creator of the deadly games is revealed. This death is incredibly emotional, as Gi-hun's belief in Oh Il-nam as a kind, innocent man is shattered. The elderly man's passing feels more like a tragic farewell, as he experiences a moment of clarity before his death, where he acknowledges that the games were an expression of his own need for stimulation and excitement. What makes his death so heart-wrenching is that it reveals the true nature of the game's creation, highlighting the psychological manipulation behind the entire system. Oh Il-nam's death isn't just physical, it's the death of innocence, trust, and any remaining shred of human decency within the game's horrifying world. It reinforces the idea that no one is safe, no matter how sympathetic they may seem. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the worst deaths in Squid Game, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.